What you are looking at are renderings of a state-of-the-art public safety training facility in Atlanta, Georgia. The $90 million facility spans across 85 acres. There's also an additional 265 acres that's dedicated to green space. The center will include an auditorium for police, fire, and public use, and also a mock city for burn building and urban police training. An emergency vehicle operator training course, a canine kennel, a canine training unit, and a horse stable are also a part of this facility. Now, the renderings, they look great. And city officials say the new Atlanta Public Safety Training Center is going to lead to better policing. Others, however, argue that it's going to do more harm than good. The group, called Stop Cop City, says the center will cause negative environmental impacts, and they believe that it will only further militarize the police force and further threaten the lives of marginalized people. People around the country are talking, and they are angry, and they are taking to the streets, speaking out against Cop City. Protests escalated last week when police shot and killed a man during a raid at the campground. Protesters in downtown Atlanta threw rocks, they broke windows, and they set a police cruiser on fire. 6 people were arrested on charges of domestic terrorism, and Georgia Governor Brian Kemp declared a state of emergency. Protests, they're not slowing down. The question is, will they make a difference? And is the fundamental critique that Cop City is a problem a valid concern? Joining me to answer that is one of the organizers and leaders of the Stop Cop City movement, Kamau Franklin. My brother, welcome to theGrio.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Just so people understand, again, break down what Cop City is. They just saw the photos that I showed, but what is Cop City and why is it a problem for you?
Well, Cop City is an idea that came from the Atlanta Police Department, the former mayor of Atlanta, Keisha Lance Bottoms, and the Atlanta Police Foundation. It's an idea that came after the 2020 uprisings, and it came out of the 2020 uprisings as a way, and this is their words, not ours, to boost morale for the police. It also seemed to be a way for them to militarize the police in Atlanta so that they could stop future uprisings. And so not only some of the things that you mentioned are going to be there, but also they're going to have over a dozen firing ranges, as you said, a place to detonate explosives. They're going to have a landing pad for a Black Hawk helicopter. They're going to have military-grade training facilities. They're going to be conducting training for not only police in Atlanta and Georgia, but 43% of the police that are going to be trained here are going to be trained from out of the state. And then lastly, they have a training program that is linked to the Israeli Police Department, where they already have exchanges of training with the Israeli police. So in essence, the same training that the same tactics and strategies that the Israeli police use against Palestinians are going to be brought here to be used against the Black community. And the same trainings, strategies and tactics that they use against Black people here are going to be exported to the Palestinian community in Palestine. So we think this is a disaster, that it's something that no one in Atlanta has asked for, but yet they plowed this through in order to, again, boost the morale of their police officers, but also as an opposition to other protest movements and their development.
Now, people who disagree with you are going to say, police are poorly trained. Y'all think police are poorly trained. Y'all always say the police are poorly trained. So why not invest in a facility that trains them better so that they don't shoot the wrong people, so that they have more precise security tactics? And they also say that it bridges the gap between police and the communities they serve. Why do you find that argument unpersuasive?
Well, on its face, it's laughable. The officer in Atlanta that shot Rayshard Brooks in the back had over 2,000 hours of training in de-escalation tactics, interactions and so forth, and civility training, all of those trainings he had before he went out and did what he did. The officers in Memphis that shot Tyree had hundreds, if not thousands of hours of training. And so it's not training that stops these officers from being brutal. It's not whether or not these officers are nice people or not nice people. It's not as if it doesn't matter if they relate to the community well. The very purpose of the police in our communities are one of a militarized force, as an occupying force. And I think the numbers show that in terms of the number of arrests, the number of convictions, the number of people who are locked in prison, all disproportionately represent Black and brown communities. And so our understanding is of the role of police, it's not something that training is going to fix. The only thing that's going to fix, as I think a prior guest was speaking about, is if we revamp and rethink what public safety is. The safest communities in the United States are not the communities that are over policed. It's the opposite. It's the communities that have the most resources. It's the communities that have the better schools. It's the communities that have the things that they need to have some control over their lives. Our communities need that too, not policing that's going to be, not police that are going to be trained up in militarized tactics to continue to attack our neighborhoods.
With the death of Tyree Nichols and countless others who have died at the hands of police, what do you see as a policy response to Cop City? So I understand you're saying we need to put resources into the community and not invest in militarized police. As a practical matter, what does that look like? Because what people are going to say to you is, all right, that sounds good, but we have police and we have, struggle, we have poverty, we have crime, we have all this stuff. We need some concrete solutions tomorrow for the person who's getting robbed or tomorrow for the person who's getting shot. And a lot of people can't imagine a world where the answer to that isn't more policing.
I think there's a lot of alternatives out there that cities like Atlanta refuse to try. First and foremost are alternatives to policing around issues of mental illness, homelessness, and traffic stops. If we did anything to have people who are not armed, who could just issue tickets, or folks who could come on the scene and deal with people having mental health issues, then those things in and of themselves would reduce the amount of time and energy that is spent between a contact between the police and the larger community, particularly the Black community. So we say that we need alternatives. That means less contact between those who are doing policing and those who are in communities, again, who get over policed. In addition, if we want to have people who are investigating crimes, again, the police on the front line are not solving crimes. They are issuing tickets, they are stopping people, they are writing reports. They're not investigating crime, and nor are they stopping any crime from happening. So the numbers of police that we have in our communities has no difference whatsoever in what we see as so-called crime. In fact, there is no study that has ever been done that has tied increased policing in communities with decreasing of crime. And so we know what we have here does not work, and so we need to find those alternatives that do work.
Before you go, I want to ask you about the incident that recently happened. Of course, your organization has been protesting Cop City for months, and things began to escalate. Protests got violent. A police officer shot and killed Manuel Esteban Paez Terán. And now the police say that he shot and injured a Georgia State trooper first. Your organization, and you in particular, has challenged that narrative. Before we go, tell me why.
Because we don't believe on its face the narrative that the police have put out there to the public. We have here agencies, including the Atlanta Police Department, the DeKalb County Police Department, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, to some news accounts, even SWAT team. For some news accounts, even the FBI and SWAT teams we had out there. And again, in your conversation earlier, you mentioned body cams. In particular, the Atlanta Police Department is required to have body cams. Yet, for this particular incident, there is no body camera footage whatsoever. Other than that, the police have stated that Manuel shot one time and then they shot back. We've received reports from neighbors that they heard a burst of gunfire, not one shot and not a quick return of fire, but a burst of fire. Also, there is nothing that indicates that Emmanuel, who is sitting in his tent, a cloth tent, who heard over a dozen officers yell at him to come out his tent, would somehow basically commit suicide and fire a shot at the police.
It is a suspicious circumstance, and we'll have to keep following. We have to remember, we're going to keep following. It is suspicious. Also, 19 demonstrators have been charged of domestic terrorism. We're going to follow that too.